This is the impact that this government-created disaster is having on families it's beyond tragic. It's criminal, really. Our next speaker, Alan Ishida, is he's a county supervisor. And what's interesting about that, he can tell us the impact it has on counties in terms of, their budget, their economies. He's going to talk about the Endangered Species Act and also the Central Valley Project Improvement Act. He'll elaborate a little bit more on that. But besides being a county supervisor, he runs a third-generation family farming operation in Tulare County. And he can talk about the devastation that this government-created crisis has had on their operation. So please welcome Alan Ishida.
Thank you, Martha. And I really want to thank all of you for taking your Sunday to be here. I want to start out with a little background about who I am, and I have a little different perspective than many people because of my background. My family's been farming in the Lindsay area for over 100 years. We do not have any fourth-generation farmers on the land. My cousins and myself and my brothers were the last ones, and my daughter lives in LA proper. My two sons live in Oakland. So I do this because it's a love of life. I respect the land, and I feel that I'm part of that land. These gentlemen here that you've heard from, they're from the west side of the valley. So if you drove up through the Central Valley up 99, they would be to your left, to the west. I farm on the other side of the valley, on the east side, and I farm citrus. Now, my hometown is Lindsay, California. Now, all of you have heard of Lindsay ripe olives. That's the claim to our fame. Well, they were put out of business because of the, partially because of the ESA Act. That's a long story. So when you're driving up 65, my district includes Sequoia National Park. And if you've ever been to the park and you take Highway 65, you look out to the east, and then all of a sudden you get into orange groves. So our second largest, most valuable crop in Tulare County is oranges and lemons. Now, the one thing we don't have in my side of the valley is that we do not have water rights to the San Joaquin River or the Sacramento River. The San Joaquin River flows through Fresno. There were farmers before us that had the first rights to that water. I have contract rights to that water. Now, I and the rest of the farmers, about 1 million acres, almost lost our water last year, and that was within probably a 2 to 30 day notice that because the original holders of that water could not get water because they relied upon the pumps being pumped in the delta, they could call upon the water rights that they owned, and that would leave all of us on the east side high and dry. Over 50% of our properties do not have groundwater. We are totally dependent upon water out of the San Joaquin River. The other thing, being a longtime resident of the area and being from a farm background, we haven't been in a drought. This drought is normal. I mean, what they call a drought is normal precipitation patterns that we've had in the San Joaquin Valley forever. The reason it started to be called a drought is the fact that you would think that it was all on the backs of God. It wasn't. It was just normal. The drought really came from ESA rulings and other environmental issues. You know, the ESA was probably a decent law with a decent objective, but what happens in these laws is there are unintended consequences. And after working 2 years for the United States Department of Agriculture, I learned that once a bill's passed, it may be the law, but that's not how the law is followed. It is followed by the bureaucrats who write the restrictions and how that law is implemented. And that Bible in the United States government is called the Federal Register. And the problem we have in the federal government is the people who pass the laws never spend enough time directing the departments that enact the laws. Once they pass laws, they just walk on. It's like the University of California, where the old saying is publish or perish. And I think that's what a lot of our lawmakers have as motivations for writing these laws. When I ran for office, and I was sitting out on the farm for 10 years as a full-time farmer, I ran because I kept getting all these regulations that were coming down upon us in the agricultural industry, and my friends that were in business were getting all the regulations. So I decided to run. I thought I could be of service, and maybe I could change a few things. And I quickly found out, and I'm not discouraged, but I quickly found out that being on the Board of Supervisors, I spend 40% of my time in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., preventing new laws. Now, I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C., and you all know how dysfunctional Washington, D.C. is. They are like a military school compared to the functioning of the state of California legislature. We get more from the federal government in aid for our people in California than we get from the state of California. And I think part of that problem in the state of California, I'm digressing from I'm giving you a political background, is that I believe that the Board of Supervisors in all your counties, there's 58 counties, haven't taken a strong enough role in directing or giving direction to the state legislature and to the governor. And same is true of your school districts. They have not taken enough an aggressive role to say what really works. And I'm going to point fingers right here because I attend conferences for the California State Association of Supervisors, and I don't see your supervisors but very rarely. They don't participate. So it's very difficult for us to come up with solutions when your local electeds do not participate. So I think that's a question that you really need to ask in November or in June. Are your electeds participating in solutions? This water problem we have is a statewide issue. It is not a Central Valley farmer issue. It directly impacts you on your water costs. And I remember when we really did have a drought that they were making advertisements on the media stating about getting a brick and putting it in your toilet bowl. You put it in your toilet tank. Well, we're getting back to a 2-brick time. And now we have low flow toilets. So that's progress. What the politicians have done successfully is that they have divided the state of California. Now, the people in the Bay Area